Welcome to the Pillow Fright podcast. I'm Alyssa.
I'm Kay.
And I'm Emma.
And we are your three besties keeping you up to date on all that the horror genre has to offer. Today, we are continuing our streak of broadcast horror that we've been talking about all month.
TM.
TM. Nobody else has ever invented that ever.
We invented it. You invented it. It's ours now. Claimed.
We are going to talk about a little film called The Cleansing Hour on Shudder. And before we do that, though, have you guys seen any recent horror movies? What's your favorite scary movie? No, I'm just kidding.
I recently saw Immaculate and The First Omen. Did you guys catch those?
That's like a perfect double feature, but no, not yet.
And it fits today, too, because I've heard it's nothing but nuns.
It does fit.
Yeah, I cannot wait for you guys to see them because you're going to go in, and while both movies are absolutely great, they're real close to the same thing.
Really?
They are stories, beats, very, very, very similar. So I'm excited that both of them exist because they're both really cool, but it's interesting that they both got made and they're like twin movies.
I heard The First Omen is really surprisingly good, and I wouldn't have figured, but
I don't want to pit them against each other, but I kind of liked Immaculate better. But I did think The First Omen was like one of the most beautifully shot movies I've seen in years.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
I haven't watched trailers, but from what I can tell from an outsider's perspective is like that The First Omen is more like fuck nuns, and then Immaculate's like, yeah, fuck some nuns.
You're not wrong, but I don't want to spoil it because these are such new movies, but it's interesting that they both exist because they have so much in common with each other.
Now seems to be just like the nun time.
Horror goes through I don't know, seasons or like themes where something is popular. Mm-hmm. Like when Hellfest came out, there was also Haunt came out, and not Hell. There was another one that was literally about a horror fest, but they all came out around the same time. And then we have werewolf movies come out at the same time, ghost movies come out at the same time. So it's not only is it cyclical, but it also has something to do with the times. So maybe right now people are like maybe religion is a fear right now.
I mean, that makes sense too, based on the times.
I mean, but what's the most interesting is that these movies, one of them has a female director, and one was made. Immaculate only exists because Sydney Sweeney made it so. She had auditioned for the role years prior, and, you know, the movie didn't end up getting made. She didn't get the part, whatever. Now with all of this, like, clout that she has, she's like, hey, I want to make that movie.
Yeah.
And they did. But the nunsploitation renaissance is very female-led, and it's a new type of body horror controlled by women. And that's a really interesting thing to see.
I never thought about that.
Well, I like that too, because when I'm thinking, like in recent years, if I'm thinking nunsploitation, American Horror Story,
yes,
which, you know, yes, it's a male director, but at the same time, like, the nun gets possessed and she gets slutty. And I was like, okay, it's fine. But like, that's not me saying anything about that actress. And then there's also the nun that's awful. Season 2 of Chucky at the reformatory Catholic school where you have super strict nun, cool nun, and then like nun who's young, but they didn't make her slutty, though I was like, I love her, so I was like, I wouldn't have been mad if you had.
Well, I mean, I would take it back as far as like, let's go back to the 70s. Let's go to like Alucarda and like Jess Franco movies and things like that, where it's literally like lesbian nuns.
Yes.
You know, the very not subtle, more like, you know, hit with a fucking sledgehammer subtext of coming of age, sexual awakening, and like, you know, look at fucking Ken Russell's The Devils.
That's
which
what I was going to say. I forgot
that to me is like the quintessential nunsploitation movie, and nothing will ever come close. Nothing will ever have the balls that movie had, but I think Immaculate comes close.
They did The Devils in my college. They performed it my senior year. They did The Devils, and it was really strange because, you know, you're like 21, whatever, and you saw all your friends just naked, like fucking on stage. It was like, I know I'm an actor and this is art, but like it was just...
Were you in it?
No. But yeah, it was interesting to see it on stage.
What's crazy about that movie is it's still such a taboo movie. I want to say Warner Brothers owns the rights to it. Maybe I'm wrong, so fucking flog me if I'm wrong. Sorry, we're putting it into the nunsploitation world where they all do the self flatulence.
self-flatulate.
Yeah, that's a big staple of nunsploitation. But fuck, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. That was a good train of thought, though.
We're not psychologists. Disclaimer. I didn't go to Catholic school. I went to a public school, but I did go to a public school where we got to interact, or like I worked with or met a lot of the people from that went to the Catholic school, and a lot of people that went to Catholic school for middle school and then got sent to the public high school. And definitely is not everyone, but they were the ones with the drugs. They were the ones that were like way more sexually experienced. And and then you have this nunsploitation, which I, especially not thinking of it from a female gaze, only looking at it from a male gaze, which obviously I can't speak for, but where do you think this nunsploitation fetish comes from? Not fetish shaming.
I feel like Italian Catholics, as we can speak on that a little bit. I actually never went to Catholic school. I don't know if you did, but
No,
my grandma wanted me to, and I love her so much. And I went to catechism, so technically I went to some form of Catholic school. But I mean, luckily my parents were pretty loose because they were not strict Catholics. Like I'm going to get into it later when we go into spoilers, but my mom had an experience in Catholic school. She was not that when I was born. So I can't speak for people who grew up in that strict environment, but I know a lot of people who have. There's just something about that repression, because as humans, humans are sexual beings. They're curious beings, and when you repress that, it only makes the curiosity grow.
So it's sexualizing the oppressor. Because
we are getting deep already.
You know, it's that, but it's also the idea, I think, of defiling something pure.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes
something
like
untouchable.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
My husband and I were watching 50 Shades of Grey recently, and when he was talking to her, you know, before they like signed their contract, and he's like, well, in your past relationships, have you ever liked to do this? And she's like, I haven't had any. He's like, so you're a virgin? And then she's like, yeah. And then he's like, where have you been? And she's like, waiting for you. It's like some sort, yeah.
Sorry.
I feel like there's just always, like, whether, you know, man, woman, whatever, I just feel like there's something that's very exciting about something new and pure, and kind of carving it into your own. I'm not saying specifically about what that, because
no, but I think it plays into the fetish. Absolutely.
Exactly. Oh, exactly.
Which get it. What gets you off? Like,
exactly. As long as you're not hurting anybody.
Yes.
You do you, boo. Okay.
But it is interesting where, like, I love the idea of where fetishes come from, because it does come up in horror so much. Okay. I mean, we were having that whole that gore phase that we did with Hostel, and there was definitely a lot of sex and a lot of layers of sexuality in those movies, even, which I have not seen, is even Human Centipede. Like, there's themes in these. No.
Fine.
I hard no. Respect
First
my
one's
answer.
fine.
But like a lot of sexuality comes into horror. It's not just like the gore movies. It's vampires. It's werewolves. It's
all pure. And I'll just really quick, one thing I'll say about that is I think it's just all pure human. Should I say carnal? I guess it's that word. Carnal it's all fear and sexuality are inherent. If
you look at Freudian psychology, the two biggest motivators for humans are sex and death. Mm-hmm. So obviously in horror, these things go hand in hand in what makes a great movie. A segue into sex and death, we just got to watch the new Maxine trailer. What did you guys think?
Oh my gosh.
That's where the pretty dead bodies came from. When they showed the corpse, and she has the thing tattooed, but the corpses are modeled, which, like, episode 1 we were talking about the reality of death, and modeling is just something that happens when, like, the blood is coagulating under the skin because it's not moving anymore. So modeling is something that happens. You do see it in live people too, but they were... Oh, yeah, I might have a problem. But anyway, we're talking about the realism in dead bodies, and she was both, because it was a beautiful girl who had been slaughtered, and I don't think I was paying enough attention to the plot, but that she had the pentacle carved out of her face. And, you know, for that brief instance, I was like, yes, okay, I'm into this movie because they had that corpse looks corpsey.
Well, and see, I'm the person in the podcast who is like 10 years behind on everything. So I'm so bad at catching up. I didn't even know the trailer released today. So when I saw it, I was very excited because I like X, Pearl was great. I mean, Mia Goth is just amazing. So
Mia Goth.
you know me. Anybody who knows me knows that the 80s is like I reincarnated from the 80s. I died and was born in 1986. And that's just, my heart lies there. So that trailer, they did it right. It looked like something that could have been made in the 80s. And Night Stalker, the real Night Stalker, right, is what it's
in California.
I love that.
Which he's had some good. I mean, actually, specifically, I think that the American Horror Story, the actor, I wish I could remember his name.
He was incredible.
He was great, but I thought he was too pretty.
But Ramirez was like, I'm not saying he was the most attractive man, but I actually think, especially for the Hotel Cortez series.
Cecil.
What?
Cecil, right?
Oh, it was based on the Cecil, but it was called the Cortez.
In the show. Sorry,
got it.
In the show, it was called the Cortez, but where they had the Demon Night episode, and they brought in all those killers, and I thought, like, casting wise, they did a really good job, especially, and then Richard Ramirez was one of them.
Oh, was he the same one that was in 1984?
No, it's a younger actor.
Okay, see, I thought you were talking about him. I was like,
no,
he's too pretty.
Well, because for him, they were casting one as a love interest and two as a younger version of someone. But I think that the casting in American Horror Story Hotel,
that was good. Yeah,
very, very close. And that's one thing I will say about Ryan Murphy is his celebrity castings. Yeah, his team is great at getting that and or doing makeup to make it match. When you have like an actual killer, which I think I like about Maxine so far, is, I mean, maybe it's just because, you know, we live in LA, but it's not just that. It's like, everyone knows LA. People know about the Night Stalker. People know about a time when people left their doors open and some guy could just walk in and get all stabby with you. Like,
and like LA in the 80s too, in particular, that was a time, just like New York in the 80s. It was very, very dangerous in a very specific way.
And there's different stories to be told about each city, too, in that time.
Something that I really thought that they captured well is, I don't know if you guys watched the Night Stalker documentary that they did on Netflix, but there was this one scene, and like, because they show you all of the worst things that this man did. So you've been conditioned through like 4 or 5 episodes to think that this fucking human is the scum of the earth. Yeah. And then they show him in the courtroom, and they show the hype, and they show this urgency of his fans. And you fucking get it. You get it instantly. You're like, this guy is, even though he is disgusting, he is horrible. The things he has done, like, definitely, like, left a scar on my soul. But, like, you understand this media hype that was created around him and this urgency that the city felt. And also that he was a fucking rock star. And what the fuck is that?
Because 80s is rock stars. That's like one thing you take about the 80s. It's cocaine, it's rock and roll, it's glam rock. Because what do you have to compare them to? The Midwest Murderers? Yeah. Those are different. Those are the murderers next door who you don't even notice because they're so everyman.
Well, yeah, and like Ted Bundy is a pretty boy. He's the pretty handsome, charming man, and Richard Ramirez was not an attractive man. But
no, but he was.
But that's what I'm saying. I think it was this weird. No, we are not advocating for Richard Ramirez, by the way. But yes,
no, but you have to talk about why people follow him, why people. Right. We talked about the psychology behind nun fetish. We can talk about the psychology behind women and men and anybody, and all genders falling for serial killers. And I'm
not guilty for falling for serial killers, but I think we can all say there's something about a certain kind of swagger, being so confident in whatever and dangerous, that mystery. And I think that also plays into growing up being repressed too, just that whole like upbringing of just like wanting something different.
So back to Maxine, I think the trailer really captured that energy, that sort of grit of Los Angeles in the 80s, the hype around Richard Ramirez and the Night Stalker and all of that, and also the age of sex work becoming something bigger than just street walking.
Bigger than Julia Roberts.
Nothing will ever be bigger than Julia Roberts. So guys, I saw this really funny thing because, we're a new podcast. We're like finding our footing. And one of the things that I read was, when you're in a group podcast, it's more than one person. A good way to figure out who your character is by like, what Scooby-Doo character would you be? And I don't know why I thought this was the funniest fucking dumb thing in the world.
When was that written?
I don't know.
Scooby-Doo is timeless.
But I was like, which Scooby-Doo character would each of us be?
That's actually kind of perfect. If you think about it, that does make sense because they all have different responsibilities and personalities.
Are we talking about like the classic version? Are we talking about the
I always think about
version? Or are we talking about?
I always think about the classic version.
I mean, yeah, I think that's the newest I know would be like the movies. So, but anyway, what Scooby-Doo character do you think you would be, Alyssa?
I'd be Scooby-Doo because I just want to fucking eat all the time. Really, oh my god, would I be Scooby?
I feel like you could be Fred. Like, I feel like
Freddie Prinze Jr. Yeah,
that is his name though, Fred, right?
Yeah.
No, it is.
Like, you're the captain, but you're kind of a himbo in the best way.
What's a himbo?
What's a himbo? It's a bimbo for a did.
But it's a great energy to have.
Well, Fred is very nice, okay? He's very polite. He's very respectful. He's tall. He's handsome. I'm not big on blondes usually, but he's a handsome gentleman. So I will take it.
He's got a jawline for days.
Did I do my... How do you make a jaw?
No, but Fred is also smart, which I like the animated version that came out after the movies where where Shaggy's still voiced by Matthew Lillard, but everybody else is different. And Fred's like super trap obsessed, and they're just like really get into the fact that he's like, I fucking love traps, guys. Like traps. But I like that more modern take on them.
Like
Shaggy and Scooby.
The live action movies?
No.
Or...
It's the animated series that came after the live action. So, because it portrays Fred as more than just like the pretty boy. It's that he's smart. He's just smart in one aspect, which for ADHD people, that's actually like a thing. Like you can be smart in like a specific thing, but you're not going to be smart in everything.
Yes.
I'm very bad at math.
I'm smart at horror, and that's about no.
I think I would be somewhere between a Velma and a Shaggy because I smoke a lot of fucking weed, but I'm also very research and detail oriented. So,
oh my gosh, I feel like Shaggy and Velma is like if I cut them and splice them and put them together, their name would be Amma. Like that's actually kind of perfect.
Who would you be?
I don't, because like I feel like the old me was pre-COVID me was Daphne. I'm pretty and I'm here for aesthetics. Like
2013 me was Daphne.
Yeah, and I'm here to compliment a situation and maybe
I've just
get
always
capped.
been Shaggy.
I'm glad you're consistent. But now I don't know. Now I kind of don't know. As long as I'm not Scrappy, though, I think we're good. Like, no one wants to be the Scrappy-Doo of the situation.
Aww, but Scrappy was new and excited and full of life.
No, I actually like where Scrappy's the villain in things. Like, I'm just like, they made in the later variations, like Scrappy's just like the villain. He's the one that they were like, the studios made us add him and we're not into it.
No, you know who I am? I'm always the old man at the end with a mask. You rip off the mask. Who's like, you damn kids.
But we know some dudes like that.
I'm 80 years old for real. So that being said, hey, we watched a movie this week.
We did.
We did watch a movie. The Cleansing Hour.
Available on Shudder.
On Shudder. Jinx.
I absolutely love that. It's a Shudder original. It's produced by them.
I think they bought the distribution rights right away.
My bad.
And it was 2021, right? Or
2019.
Oh, wow. Okay. It was earlier than I thought.
That's because no one understands what time is for the last 4 years. It's one year.
It was 2019, and then it was 2023.
But no, it came out September 16th, 2019. So, yeah, a little less than 5 years ago.
So we will get into the non-spoilers first, because we don't like spoilers. So we will disclaim you when we talk about spoilers. We'll do graphics and make it a really big deal, because I appreciate that, because I hate when people talk about spoilers without really disclosing. No, I'm kidding. We won't actually, but we'll get into non-spoilers, and then we will let you know when we're talking about spoilers.
So if you have AMC Plus or if you have Shudder, then please go watch this movie, because it's like for a 2019 film, and I didn't really hear about it until I saw it on Shudder, but I was like, oh, the production value is great.
Yeah, I found out about it when I started becoming obsessed with YouTube. And then when I got a paid subscription, I just fell down a rabbit hole of just falling asleep to YouTube videos. And then I discovered it was What Culture Horror. And they do a lot of those lists, the top 10 whatevers. And I think they were talking about just movies that you haven't seen that might, something like that. And it came up and I thought, this actually looks really interesting. Have I never heard of this? And I watched it and I had a different opinion than I did this time around, but I liked it. And I didn't dislike it, but
I mean, yeah, I would. The first time I watched it was during the pandemic, and I was like sewing masks that I was giving to friends and stuff. So I was like half watching it, and I really liked it. This time I actually sat down and watched it with no distractions, and there are things I liked about it. I did think that there was a lot of originality. I mean, I actually kind of disagree with what Kay said. I felt that it was... You could tell it was an indie because it was obviously shot overseas. Like, I think they shot in, I wrote in my notes, I keep thinking Bulgaria, but that's wrong. It was in Budapest, right? No.
Sorry, let me pull it up really quick. Romania.
Yeah, so it was something that I immediately was like, oh, this was shot on a soundstage overseas, and it was very contained. Like, you could tell they only had one set, so they only had the money for one set. One of the things I really enjoyed about it was I thought that they did the most practical effects that they could with the budget that they had. Like, you could tell that they were just trying to go ham on that, and I really appreciated that. And, I really felt like it tied in with our month of broadcast horror, as it's, some guys who were failed filmmakers who found a niche of broadcasting exorcisms and, trying to get this like big following on whatever their platform was.
right.
Which is, I mean, their platform is basically, and this isn't a spoiler issue, their platform was almost like a combination between Instagram and TikTok, even though TikTok wasn't, in 2019, TikTok hadn't taken off to the level that it is now. But if you watch TikTok lives and you watch Instagram lives, the hearts, it's like tap in the hearts, tap in the hearts, tap in the hearts.
Like Facebook Live.
Yeah, where you can like tap multiple times. But any social media that has a live aspect, it takes from that versus like a YouTube video, where you like once. And so it was it's more audience interactive. And reading a comment section, kind of the same with Twitch streaming, where you can like you talk about the comments while they're happening. You can send support. You can click links. You can buy things from them, which was all part of it. So it did feel very, even though they never like said the name of their platform, you knew it.
So these guys have basically made their own little business where, Father Max is the star. He's the guy in front of the camera, and his buddy Drew is running everything behind the scenes, from like the live edit to packing orders for their prayer cloths that they're selling. And
he's putting all the links up. He's literally running the show.
And, right away you get this dissonance between these guys who are... Is this spoilery? I don't fucking know.
No, it's you're talking about like the two characters are very different in this, someone who's in front of the camera versus someone who's behind the camera.
And you get the sense that they've been friends for a long time, and that they're one of them, Drew, played by Kyle Gallner, is like putting up with some shit from this sort of egotistical, narcissistic front of the camera guy, Max.
Which is a stereotypical relationship, but not all stereotypes exist for a reason. So that's because it's a lot of work being behind the scenes, and it's a lot of work that people don't see all the time. But once we started watching things that are more found footage, I think that's been something that's brought in the limelight more, is like how much work it is to create anything.
Oh yeah, it's so much work.
People make things themselves, and now they're like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, that's the hardest part, when you hear people saying content creation's so easy. No, like I admire anybody who actually does it full time, and hopefully, we'll experience that at some point. But
this is our third episode, and I'm so tired.
It is, and it's just anybody who creates something on their own, especially like they're the guys behind and in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. It is so hard,
and it's why so many big names have full teams behind them, even though you only know the one name. But a lot of people who are like YouTube famous, who are Twitch famous, who are TikTok famous, they have people who are doing their editing. They have people who are doing all that behind this, who are setting up their shots, who are setting up their lighting, who are funneling ideas. yes, that's the face that we know. The work is normal. Quite often it's done by a lot of people, and so much more respect to the people who do it themselves. But also, once you get high enough where you can pay a team, you do it, because that's only going to take your work even farther.
Right.
But so this movie, it's like basically started with these two guys from the ground up, and it's still, I think that they have a sound guy and they have a makeup effects guy,
Right.
but that's their team.
Just the basic.
And the pyrotechnics, the effects guy.
Oh, yeah.
Was he different than
Yeah, there's the sound guy. There's the younger guy who's on sound.
the big guy who's doing the pyrotechnics? But I thought he was doing more of the
Tommy, I think
effects
his
stuff
name was.
too.
Well, like when I say effects, I don't mean like they have makeup who is separate, but he is doing pyrotechnics. He's doing all the stuff that
Right.
all the camera tricks. He's doing all that.
And then there's Riley, who was the cousin of Tommy,
The
the
PA.
bigger guy, the PA.
And Lane, who's the makeup artist.
Lane is Lane?
Lane.
That's Drew's girlfriend. Was she
Yeah.
the makeup artist?
She
Yeah,
was.
she
and
was the makeup artist.
Oh, wow. I must have missed that.
She was quitting to go do something
Oh, 'cause
else.
she had to go. She got a job, or she had an opportunity, or something like that.
And then they bring on a PA to help out, quote unquote, because,
Stereotypical. Like at first you think, oh, she's
film
just this
student.
blonde, like mindless, but yeah.
Great outfits, though.
Oh, great!
I kind of want to wear her
outfits.
clothes.
Great.
They bring them up, don't they? They're like, oh, you're circa Gwen 20 years.
Gwen Stefani.
Gwen Stefani, circa 2011 or something like
She's
that.
like,
I don't-
you're
yeah.
old.
Let's talk about Drew. Or not Drew, Max.
I was about to talk about Drew. but
Max
we can talk about
Max to me seemed like such a fuckboy. Like the man bun, he looks like he's really into like Asian culture and like has swords. And
It's like they created. He was like the perfect archetype of a fuckboy. But I just every time, both times I watched it, I kept trying to place who does he remind me of? Is there somebody who like does he remind you of
actor?
somebody? Yeah, it's either an actor, because it's driving me crazy, because I know I'm not thinking of him. I know he's obviously an actor. But
yeah, I was like, he was in that scandalous it was like The Boy Next Door or something like that with Jennifer Lopez.
really?
Yeah,
I
he
would've
was
not-
like
That's
he-
definitely not
have
where
no
I
idea
recognize
what
him
that
from.
movie is.
oh guys.
I'm sorry.
It's
I want to. Can we watch that for one of our slumber parties?
oh my god, it's so scary. I don't even know if I've ever finished it. It's like one of those like erotic thrillers that kind of makes you embarrassed.
Oh, is it really that bad? I get embarrassed so easily lately. Like, I can't even watch people kiss on screen in front of other people because I'm like, oh. I don't know why.
No, it's like, you know when like erotic thrillers go bad and they start like killing their pets and like doing it's like the things he does are so like invasive. I'm just like, oh, I can't watch this.
I mean, he's a fuckboy, but he's a beautiful, beautiful man, though, I will say.
I think it's that yeah. He fits into that genre.
Yes, he's
that,
perfect
like-
for the role. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's great.
Like that guy you're kind of attracted to, but he also looks like he could be anybody, but at the same time, like you've seen him in
You
a
just
bar.
like
He's the
you
sexy priest.
you know he's gonna give you chlamydia.
You know,
Like
he's the
there's a
priest. He's
chance.
like
You
the
look at him and you're just like there's something about you that's a little dirty, and I just
yeah.
you're taking a chance. Like there's gonna be like
Like, if you-
antibiotics after you fuck this guy. I don't know.
Like, if you give him attention, he's like, oh, maybe he is interested. Oh, maybe he does like me.
I could
12
fix
hours
him.
later, I can fix him. I can. But can I talk about Drew really quick? Can I
Yes.
just mention?
Really, you're not going to do really
Listen.
quick.
No, I'm not. But I'm going to save it
We've
for.
mentioned him
I'm
in other
saving
podcasts
it for this.
how much you love him.
I am a Kyle Galder stan for life. I love him so much, and everything he does. I would watch him literally in anything except for the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. But I think I love him. He has so much charisma, and he's one of my favorite actors in horror.
Okay, so what's your favorite movie that he's been in?
I really like him in Jennifer's Body.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I was going to say
Jennifer's
too.
Body. Yeah,
I
I,
was like,
love
give
him
me
in
that
Jennifer's
emo
Body,
kid.
and even in Scream. And I will say, even in I got really loud. Even in Scream 5, just the tiny little snippet of a character that he had. There's something about that man that no matter what he does, he could be on screen for 30 seconds and he gives it 110%. Like, he gives it his all. And I thought he was great in this movie. I thought he was amazing. Like, he was my favorite part of this whole movie.
Well, so two things. First, Jennifer's Body.
Yes.
When he had auditioned for like the role of Chip, and he didn't get it because it went to Johnny. What's his face?
Yeah.
So they're like, "Hey, you want to be Colin?" And he's like, "Sure." and he got to like pick out his wardrobe and like all of his piercings. Like that character is 110% him. Like he made that character.
I want to be his best friend. Can Kyle, can you be on our show? You know you're watching this.
Sorry. So number 2, you talk about how great he is in this movie. Like a week before shooting, he had an emergency appendix surgery.
No.
Yeah, like they did not know. I think they're like, I'm gonna know if I can go shoot this movie 48 hours before.
Oh my god.
And so they
in another country.
So they were like holding out for him, like, fuck, please, like, make it. And he did, but
And it's not like it's a movie that's not. There's a lot of physicality in this movie, so just having someone that's just recovered from a major surgery is really crazy.
And he did a lot of his own stunts and stuff after really just had, like, it was like a week and a half prior that he had an appendix surgery. I mean, I think that goes to show how much he puts into a film.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty incredible.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
Wow.
a lot of his work, you think of most recently, so there's, Smile. That was a big one. That was one of the major studios ones that he was
I hated
in.
that one, but I love him.
He was great in it. You said Scream. So I have a bad habit of like, I'll put a new movie on, and I need to only do it with old movies. I'll put a new movie on while I'm doing something. Like you mentioned you were making masks the first time you watched this, and I was like, well, I'm cleaning or something. It was The Passenger. And then I kept looking up and being like, oh crap, it's good. I gotta watch this. I did that with Coherence, and I was like, ah, crap. All right. Nope. This is a great movie. I'm going to go back and give it my full attention. So The Passenger,
Can I pee now while you talk about it?
No. It's a movie.
You're never going to watch it. It's a really low budget small movie.
But,
so that's the movie he did with it was like Johnny Birchtold, is that the actor's name?
yeah, I'm so bad with names. It's because I started watching it because I saw, like she talked about earlier, one of those list things of movies you hadn't seen that are on Shudder that are now streaming. It's like that killer movie about like how an unassuming guy gets people to follow him or listen to him and becomes a murderer. Which I won't say anything else about the movie, so you can go watch it. But it was that like you're following someone because you're scared, or you following because something about what they're doing makes sense and it's like kindling something within you? Are they doing something that you for some reason are kind of connecting to because they're going crazy and they're doing something they shouldn't be and you would never do it, but they're doing it, and it's kind of like an excuse for you. But him being the lead,
and that's what I was gonna say is like I would love to see him be the lead in more movies. And I know in the past few years, I think he did like Dinner in America and a few others, but they're still indie films. I'd love to see, like, I'm like, is Smile 2? Is he going to be the lead in it? I hope so.
I mean, if it follows something along the lines of other sequels where it's like the last person infected. What am I thinking? Is it Contagion? What is the sexually transmitted disease movie? No, not the other sexually transmitted disease movie.
Oh,
where who's the guy that we know? Why am I so bad with names?
I know what you're talking about. I can see the cover.
I know, and it's like
Eric England directed the first one, and then Josh Forbes did the second.
But wow,
it's some sort of word for contagious, right?
Yeah, it's not infection. Contracted. So in Contracted 1, it's following the journey, kind of like in Smile, where even though it's not sexually transmitted, it is transmitted. So in Contracted 1, it's Najara Townsend is the lead, but then in Contracted 2, it follows one of the friends that she infected, Matt Mercer. And so he ends up being the lead. That's why I was like, we can't not. So you have the lead, and he gets to be the lead. So it's kind of like the same thing. Is Smile going to be his movie? And
I hope
he finally
so.
gets the chance.
Like, I didn't really like Smile 1, but I would love to see a movie with him as the lead. Another thing I really loved about Kyle Gallner's performance is how well he worked with his, like, the chemistry he had with Lane.
Yes.
I thought that character was really well done, and what's her name, Alexis something?
No, I just know her as not Allison Williams.
She looks just like her.
She looks just like her.
I
really liked her. I thought she was great. It's not
Alex Angelis.
Alex Angelis.
Ooh, what a great name.
Not Allison Williams.
Not Allison Williams, but Alex Angelis.
I thought the chemistry that they had was great.
I thought they were great.
Well, and also as like Hollywood couples who, it's that whole thing of like you meet people at work. And so I believe that they met on set and that they hired her to be a makeup artist. Like, I don't know their 100% backstory, but the way that they're talking and they're supportive, that's the on-set relationship that you want, because in real life you really, not everyone who's a couple can work together.
Right.
And he's just like, oh, I'm so happy you get an opportunity. Oh, but I don't get to see you at work every day. I'm gonna lose you.
Like, they're very supportive of each other, and you don't see that a lot. And they were a very believable couple.
And then he had a different chemistry with Max entirely.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's still a relationship because they're longtime friends who working on something.
Well, yeah, and as a viewer, you think, how can he put up with this shit? Like, why does he hang out with him? But then, but knowing, like, when you know somebody for that long, it's like, it just becomes, you become immune to that kind of behavior. So it's just there. At one point, he, like, shoves him at some point, like, off, and he's just like, okay, well, bye. Like, he's just
he's
really
like,
casual.
Yep, out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, you deal with the things and you have somebody else on the outside being like, you don't have to deal with this. So the actual relationships in the film felt very, very real.
Yes.
On a film that is not, it's so heightened, but the relationships are real, which is, I think, is a really nice way to bring the audience in.
Well, something I thought was really interesting is that the writer-director, he comes from the unscripted world. He was an editor on like TMZ and E and all of that. He knows what it's like to work with these sort of personalities. So I think writing it, he did a really good job hitting that as a mark.
Is it an algorithm for reality TV people being Satan?
The narcissism of being an on-camera talent for like when you're not really an actor and you're not, you're just being yourself.
You're
like,
just, a heightened version of yourself, but suddenly you're just the celebrity because of that. I don't know, it's interesting to me.
I was listening to some interviews he did where he talked about how a lot of these like ghost hunting shows and such are really made in the edit, because obviously they're not capturing ghosts every single time and they're not hearing noises. Like all of that is done in post and, putting something together that's not real, but it's entertaining. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really interesting that he talked about. And also he made this in like 2016. He did a short film and it killed festivals. Like it went to like Stygius and Fright Fest and all of that. So that's how he got funding to do the feature.
I had no idea it was a short film at first. Have you seen it?
Yeah, it's a long short film, and it has the possessed girl is Heather Morris from Glee.
Okay, that confirms something for me. I had no idea that it was a short film. Were there any characters?
It's a lot different as far as like they build relationships that aren't as there as much. But it's interesting to me that he chose someone to be the possessed girl who was a dancer. Yeah. And then in this one, there's still that physicality there of your possessed person. That I thought was interesting. I would say for me, one of the flaws was like, I don't really feel like it was explained very well how a possession happened in this movie. And
see, I feel like everything I have to say is going to be in spoiler territory, but I think we should get into the spoilers now. So if you are here and you have not seen the movie, it is on Shudder. Watch it now. Come back. We have a lot to say about spoilers. So spoiler starts now. Spoilers.
So the very first, it opens on one of these broadcasts because this fits into our theme of broadcast horror, but in a more modern variation, because the first movie that we talked about was a 1970s broadcast. The second movie is 1990s, and this is the 2000s. This is now. It opens up on an exorcism, and if so right when you watch the movie, you're like, okay, I'm just watching an exorcism, and then you find out, no, you're actually watching the show.
It reminded me of the opening of the Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Is that what that subtitle is? Devil Made Me Do It? Or am I making that up? Okay.
The fourth Conjuring.
The Conjuring nobody asked for.
The Conjuring, the devil made me make it. Oh. Anyway. Yeah, so you find out it was literally all smoke and mirrors. He's doing this exorcist, and then all of a sudden you see somebody on the side, like, pressing the buttons for the smoke machine.
Yeah, Tommy. Get it.
Good old Tommy.
Tommy, the effects guy.
Tommy, I feel like the effects guy is always a Tommy. It's like always ends with a Y. You got Tommy or Jimmy. Hey Jimmy.
Bobby.
Hey Bobby. Hey Tommy.
I need the smoke machine up a little, like
Yo,
pump it 10%.
Yo Tommy, give me some smoke machine over there.
Yeah. But Tommy does a great job.
I love Tommy.
Tommy must have gotten his start in haunted houses. That's what I'm assuming.
Yes.
I think Tommy got his start at a local haunted house as a teen and got built up into the big leagues with this live broadcast.
I feel like the really sweet guy, the boom mic, the friend of Drew's.
The guy who loves ecstasy.
Yes, the guy.
the drug,
the drug
say
guy.
no to drugs, kids.
The
guy.
say no to drugs, kids.
Poor
Yes.
guy. So that's Chris, and the actor's name is Chris too.
Yes. Yeah, the limited crew was him, Tommy, and then Riley, who we said was the PA.
Who got brought in at the end.
Yes.
So the big episode was her first episode.
The first time I watched it, the thing about these streaming movies or anything that takes place like online or anything, like what's the movie that just came out, like not Cam, but it was the live stream. Anything with Deadstream. There was Deadstream, things like that. You want to look at all the comments that people are writing, but you want to pay attention to the movie. So the first time I paid attention to the movie, this time I was like, you know what? I'm going to pay attention to the comments.
Well, fun fact about the comments, the director invited like 20 of his friends over and got them real drunk and then played scenes from the movie, and they had like a live Google Doc, and he just was like, write whatever. So it's like,
that makes me
that's so cool.
Happy, because I kept writing down like my favorites as we went on, and now that you said that, it makes this 10 times better, because a couple standouts were, I'd fuck him in an LA minute. Why are there no bitches in this episode? Better than Netflix any day. And then, so MAGA. And then the classic, just went from 5 to midnight.
ooh, wow.
Those were just a few key favorites just in the beginning.
Yeah, he's like, thank the depravity of my friends for all of those comments.
Your friends are amazing, and I'd like to party with them any day. That's actually my idea of a party, is just doing a live stream of a movie and just writing comments of it.
I mean, that's a really clever way to do it versus coming up with them yourself.
No, and I love that, because that, there's going to be something hidden in there. There's going to be some like little Easter egg or something in there, and I love, because
there's a lot of gems.
There's a lot in this movie too.
Well, and then you have like thinking of movies where they do stuff like that. Like one of the not older, but like a movie that kind of did that before it was a thing would be like Fear.com.
Yes,
that classic.
So a little side tangent. My husband, he's a big physical media guy anyway, but we had bought a small CRTV for like some shoot, and now he's put it in our kitchen next to his desk where his office is. And he's put a VCR and a DVD player in there, and he calls it his micro cinema. So if you want to go to the micro cinema to watch DVDs on his little square TV, you got to pull up like a chair or an Apple box and sit in our kitchen and do that. So if you want to watch Fear.com in the micro cinema, come on over.
Just as God intended.
It's smart, because once everyone found out that like even if you buy a movie through Apple or Vudu or Amazon, you don't own it, and they can take it from you at any time. So it's unfortunate. We all went for the convenience, and now it's like, sorry, buy it. And I have Dogma on DVD. You can't watch that.
Oh, that's worth something.
But it's
girl.
mine.
Oh my god.
But that's the thing, is like if you love it, if you want to, and I started doing the same thing. I started buying movies that I love on physical copy, so no one could take it from me.
I also like watching movies that came out like DVD. Obviously, the quality we never expected to be horrible compared to like today with 4K, and I like watching it in the quality it was meant to be, and that makes me happy.
Which is actually funny, because in Cleansing Hour, she's like, you don't stream in 4K.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. And he's just like, okay.
He's
all
like,
right.
it looks like a snake.
I love the intro. I love Father Max's intro, how he's on that like rotating platform. He's like,
my God.
The prayer of God blesses you. And he's just like rotating. It's that dramatic music.
But these shows exist. Like we were talking about like ghost adventures and all that stuff. So, I mean, Zach
Bagans.
I know, but I always want to call him Zach Brannigan. Zach Bagans set the standard for ghost hunters that has been mimicked in so many movies and TV shows, and like, from Supernatural's Ghost Watchers and like, or what's it called? Ghost. I don't know.
Ghost Watchers, I think.
But no, that's not right.
Or a ghost. Ghost
Chasers.
Ghost
Chasers. But like that level of, I'm this guy and I do this and we're gonna hunt a ghost.
And that's
like,
exactly how they talk all the time.
so that's a standard now. And so you have like, I'm Father Max and I'm gonna chase out your demons.
With the button, just a little chest hair, like, I'm Father Max.
But it's funny because then we get our first peek at who Father Max really is when he gets to the bar and he gets, and you know, like
karaoke.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, well, if I were there, what would I have done?
Oh no, there's a part, like, when I was watching this, I was like, I am the Drew to Alyssa's Father Max.
Yes, you are!
And don't worry about it, I'm just Chris being like, drugs. Want to see a magic trick?
No, I would say you're kind of the Lane. Like, you're always like, Emma, don't put up with all this shit.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop.
Yeah, you're always like the voice
I can
of
be
reason.
both.
You're just like,
I can be both. I can be night and day.
But I that was one of my thoughts watching it. I was
was
just
that
like,
a real thought?
yes. I was like, oh God, I've been in this moment in this bar with Alyssa.
Yeah, you know, they recognize me as a priest all the time.
Fair.
No, fair. That actually is a very fair thought.
Also, fun fact, Kyle Gallner really loves karaoke. He met his wife at Dimples. Was that what the place was called?
Dimples! I have a tape. No, it was a DVD of me singing at Dimples. I wonder if Kyle has one too.
I'm sure he does.
Kyle, let's switch Dimples DVDs.
And my husband ran into him once at Dimples, so I feel like he was a regular.
I miss Dimples. I wonder if he sang with Belding. Anyway.
But yeah, so at the bar, we really start to see who Father Max is when he gets these girls, and he takes one home and is making pornos and being a creep. And
that's the first sight gag we get where he sees, like, she starts going down on him, one of the girls that was
with the sheet
admiring
over it,
him.
as always happens in movies.
So her black hair all of a sudden turns to gray, and you think, oh, what's happening? So that's his first, like, apparition he sees.
First jump scare.
The first jump scare. The ghost, like, gouged eyes out. You're like, what the fuck? Oh, he's starting to see shit. Freaks out. And that's when you know something's about to go down.
And then we cut to Drew and Lane in their apartment, and he's packing all, like, Max is out there, like, having a fuck fest, and then Drew is, like, packing all the orders of all their merch, and, like, the funny thing to me is that he gets a package from his dad, and right away it's these things, these like AR goggles they're called Bright Eyes, and I was like, oh, that's gonna come back, like that's a Chekhov's AR goggle.
I didn't even notice that. Chekhov's AR goggle.
Yeah, and that was something right away. I was like, oh, well, we're gonna see that come back later.
And that's when they're talking about she
got the zombie movie with Jared Leto.
Imagine going from fucking Father Max to Jared Leto. It's just like a heightened, horrible version of the same thing.
Yeah,
Jared Leto got possessed by a fucking demon.
He probably already
possessed
is.
by a fucking demon.
Whatever demon Jared Leto sold his soul to not age, the Keanu Reeves deal and the Jared Leto deal, I to be honest, like, demon, hit me up. I'll meet you at a crossroads because I'm into it.
I will say at this point, when you turn into your late 30s, something happens. Something changes inside of you.
A demon named Juvederm.
Juvederm. I summon the Restylane demon.
And the Botox Christ.
But yeah, call me. I'm into it.
Anyway, so...
But I think that it's where we first get the, like, he's not doing this for you. You want to make a career. You want to make a life. You want to provide. And Father Max is using it for clout.
Right. Yes. And she sees that. And
then when he says, oh, I'm really happy for you. And then he's like, it really sucks to lose you. And it's not just it really sucks to lose you to work with you, but it's also it really sucks to lose you for the show. Mm-hmm, that for the show for him is his life. He and her career and them together is hers. And then Father Max is himself.
And it's also like he's trying to talk to Max like, hey, what if we do ghost hunting? What if we do this? How do we expand? Because, like, I think him and Max have similar goals where they want to blow up and act like they don't know nobody. But, you know, I think one of them is clout and the other is financial, and they're starting to butt heads there.
Yeah.
Max wants to get verified.
Yes.
And
That's his goal.
Just like Late Night with the Devil wanted to beat Carson.
Wow, there's so many parallels.
you have the person who's thinking about the big picture, kind of like Gus was thinking about, oh God, what's this doing to him? Versus, and then Drew is thinking about like, well, what's this doing to the show? We've plateaued. We need to grow. And Max is just thinking about, what can I do to be famous, to get verified? In the end, this is what are you willing to do to get famous?
Is that when he says we need to up the ante, and he knows the drag queen, or he knows like somebody
Scarlett Von Cock.
Scarlett
Von Cock.
He knows her from Drag Bingo.
That's right. Oh, drag bingo. My mom was probably there when he went.
But then the funny thing to me is I sincerely do not think that the person they got in drag was a real drag queen. Like,
yeah, I watched it with Ryan, and he even was like, that was the only time in the whole movie that he spoke up. He's like, I don't know if I believe this.
Well, also, how many drag queens do you know who will like go to set in full wardrobe? It's not safe, for one, and two, the amount of like work it takes to build up all of your wigs.
I mean, maybe sometimes, but as far as I know, that's not.
No, if you're taking an Uber, you're not going in full.
Yeah,
drag.
you're not going. It is a.
They're not credited. I'm looking at IMDb.
Really?
I don't see Scarlett Von Cock. I see all the extras that are in the movie with names that they didn't necessarily say them as, but I'm like legitimately.
So maybe would they be credited
not there.
as themselves?
Wow. Yeah, I'm actually kind of confused because
but
like
Makeout Girl is credited. Makeout Girl.
Who's Makeout?
Who is
I know
Makeout
who's
Girl?
Makeout Girl.
Could it be me?
It's you.
Homeless woman and homeless man are in here, but not.
Wait, there was a homeless woman?
Yeah, remember the demon walking?
Oh, that was okay. So I know the one who was sleeping, and the drag performer's like, "Excuse me, is this so and so address?" By the way, those alleyways, it reminded me of Jason Takes Manhattan. Like,
I was like, this ain't L.A.
This ain't L.A. So he, the drag performer doesn't get the answer, and then all of a sudden there's that really creepy. I didn't know that was homeless woman, like credited as homeless woman, but we forgot to mention too. We skipped ahead, but Chris, the boom operator, after that night out, because they go back to work the next day, so the drag performer is supposed to be the possessed person that day, and Chris he has the sweats. He's sick.
That's not skipped ahead. That's after.
Is it?
Yeah. The drag
they show him at the
well, because he's sick at first, and then they show the possessed person, and then you're like, oh, let's put two and two together.
Yeah, I guess it's like all around. But yeah. Chris throwing up doesn't happen until after the drag performer is already.
That happens after. That happens actually like right after, I think.
Yeah, because Max is too interested to find out about everything that's focusing on him and showing off his newest sex tape.
Oh yeah, he is. Hey Drew, look at this.
And then he's like, oh, Drew doesn't want to look at it? All right, Chris, look at it. And it's while he's rewatching it, and it's kind of just like,
which may actually be more important than we think.
Chekhov's sex tape.
But yeah, poor Chris Schwasty, still messed up and already seeing things, which is like the fact that the demons are in the world and are plotting from the get.
And something else that we skipped, that Drew is compiling all of these old books into like a demon dictionary.
Yes.
So that they can like do names and make up shit on the spot and like denounce the demons to send them back to hell.
The Devil's Database. I was going to say, is that I'm sure it's a real
Database,
thing,
but online you can pull up things. There is Delirium's Realm, which is demonology, list of demons, devils, monsters, and evil spirits, and they actually have it listed by the different religions in the different regions. So I was like, well, this is something that I'm going to rabbit hole, and that seems cool. Then there's hellhorror.com, which is an A to Z demon name list and descriptions, and also the Devil's Database is devilsriverconservatory.org, which might be something entirely which might just be about a river.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with demonology and the occult, and
someone should make a new baby name book.
Yeah, I know. Well, funny story. When I was thinking of baby names, I actually did look into the demon list, the goddess demon list. Anyway, I'm a witch. So there is a demonology, like there is an index of names. So I thought that was really fascinating to me, because I was like, is the Devil's Database a real, like, is that a legit thing? Or, I mean, because I know a lot of movies don't want to fuck with that, because that could be really scary.
Well, we had, Beleth is the demon from the very opening, and then we've had...
They had a little shout out to Paimon.
Paimon!
From
Hail
Hereditary.
Paimon!
Yep.
Hail
Sup, Paimon.
So I think there is they...
Sup, bro?
My boy!
My boy Paimon!
You use these real names in it, and whether it is going to bring up something and curse your film, or maybe it'll help, because there are people that think both ways. And we talked the first episode about, like, what if it is the opposite, about maybe the demons are actually there to help, and the gods and the angels, kind of like that TV show Has Been Hotel, which is like the flip of where, like, the demons are the good characters and the angels are villains.
Yeah. So, like, I think as far as that goes, like, this movie still plays into that Reagan era, like, satanic panic propaganda. And I think something else this movie suffers from a little bit is, like, and a lot, I mean, not just this movie, every exorcism movie after The Exorcist. Mm-hmm. Exorcist is the gold standard. Yes, it showed us what an exorcism could be, but it's kind of a bummer that we've never moved on from that cinematically. And, it's like, we get it. She's going to have fucked up skin and talk in two voices. And I would love to see a filmmaker with a fresh take on what an exorcism should be, because, Hurricane Billy did it right the first time. So why are we just repeating and repeating and repeating?
Right. I mean, I especially coming from, like, makeup, like, where I was looking at what they were doing for this and what the contacts are one of my, like, biggest pet peeves as a makeup artist, especially as a makeup artist who fucking loves zombie movies. So white contacts with a black pupil in a zombie movie, I'm out. Mentally, I've checked out. I hate it. I know they're cheap, and I know that they're safer because you can see, versus the contacts that, like, other zombie
sclera or whatever.
Yeah, or like whiteout contacts, which look more like a dead eye, which I do love in some possession movies where you're talking like Autopsy of Jane Doe, which, like, she's another where she looks great and, like, the eyes and all that. But with a possession movie, I don't mind it. Like, that's what those contacts are for. And so this one had that, but it didn't look costumey. It looked like they did a heightened version where, like, small eye pinhole. So it almost looks maniacal.
I love those contacts because, yeah, like you were saying, there's something about eyes that always get me too. And I love me a good demon eye contact, because I saw that with Evil Dead Rise too. Like, there's something about those eyes that's just like, oh, the little tiny pinholes.
But, like, that is like the sclera. It's almost like because the person has been shrunk to being, like, in the back of the mind. And so, like, it's kind of shown through the eyes that they're not human anymore, and that the human is, like, way in the back there.
Oh, I love that.
So when she's possessed, which seemed to be the demon's plan all along, it's why I had to get rid of, which I think, they had to get rid of the drag performer, because the drag performer didn't mean anything. Not in the world, but in their world.
Right.
And
they
Lane,
need to get through.
Yes. Lane is important.
And that's,
to both of them.
Yeah. I don't know if that's something to bring up later now, but that's something that I saw with the exorcism. It almost seemed like it was viral, like with Chris, with his symptoms. And then
Chris was an easy mark because Chris was under the influence.
I mean, I don't know if I felt like they really explained, like, how the demon entered. Was it through Chris first? Because I know he saw himself with, like, the fucking light, the crackle skin in the bathroom, and he was having, like, visions or whatever, and so was Father Max. So I don't know if this is something that was, like, slowly infecting them, or if it chose this specific day to do this. It was very unclear to me of the origins of the demon entering their world.
I don't think, if you look at, like, a traditional exorcism movie, like, you look at, like, The Exorcist, the demon gets accepted into, like, it infiltrates a person, and it has, like, some of the movies, it's like, you have to say yes to me, like, you have to allow me in. Evil Dead, it's kind of through, like, an infection. I thought this movie was that the demon had a plan and was going to use whoever. I don't think it was about spreading an infection or anything like that. I think it was just the demon was infecting the world around them and was doing everything to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think because there's a quote in there when they're like, oh, something like, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. You fucking called our names this many times. Did you expect nothing to happen?
Yeah.
But then, the plan was to infect the world, like, not just their world, the entire world.
Right.
you know. So I guess maybe they just saw an in and went for it, and, you know, exploited these people's issues with each other and things that meant something to them to get a reaction, to get more people to watch the feed, to infect as many people as possible.
Yes, they call the names all the time, and they do this, and it gets the demon's attention. And then the demon's like, you know what this might be good for? My grand plan of destroying everything. So I didn't mind that there wasn't one demon origin story. I think I was focusing more on this is part of the end game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess story-wise, I would have appreciated if there was some clarity as to how it started.
I think it's fuck around and find out. They keep on faking all these demon possessions and using these names for clout. Well, they invited it in themselves.
Yeah, even unintentionally, they weren't thinking about it. That was an invitation still.
And then there was, you know, it goes back to, they show these flashbacks of Max and Drew when they were kids in Catholic school.
Yes.
And they inherently, accidentally murdered their abusive nun teacher.
Yeah, that was so interesting for me to see, because I think the first scene of the flashback, they're kneeling on the bottle caps, right? Was that the first one? And I kept thinking about my mom, because she went to Catholic school and she was kind of like the rebel, but she didn't mean to be. She was just curious. So I remember she told me there was one time where a nun was taking a shower and she opened the shower curtain because she needed to see if their habits were real, or like if they had hair under the habits, and she got punished for that, and she got punished for speaking up in class, so she had to kneel on dry beans. And she said it was very traumatic with her, and obviously that's why she's not religious today. But I kept seeing the parallels of, like, the flashbacks of seeing all this religious trauma on Max coming up to the surface with this. They know how to get him with that.
It also seemed like the voice from the teacher was also the voice that was coming out of Lane.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if this demon has a history with them that goes back all the way to this was this nun in some way possessed, so she was like torturing them, or was it using this trauma from his past to infect his brain?
Yeah, because the first apparition was of the nun, right?
Yeah.
So he keeps seeing that. This whole movie is just religious trauma.
It's trauma in general. It's he killed someone.
Right.
Even if he did it as a kid and he did it because he was trying to defend his friend from the trauma that they were currently being inflicted, it stayed with him. He talks about it later on, about like when he has his humanity moment of, you know, I'm this way because I had to do this and I had to protect and all this stuff. So the way that the nun was used, and then he becomes a demonologist, I think it's the trauma. I think it's that the demon latched on to trauma, where they say, you know, when we talk about trauma, those are just your demons.
Yeah.
So it just became literal.
Yeah. And you know, demons like to get under your skin. But in this movie, she's trying to play on him. And I think the game was, she said, because the demon knows the audience is watching, and they play on that. And it's like, okay, was it the like was later, but it's like, oh, what does he need to do? Otherwise I'm going to kill Lane. And the audience basically was like,
Get naked.
And then all the while, though, I kept paying attention to the comments, the live commentary. And it's so sad because you want to think it's silly when they're like, yeah, suck his dick. Like all this stupid commentary. But that's real life. Like,
that's what would 100% would
exactly,
happen. Especially in an unmoderated chat.
Yeah, if somebody was dying on chat, which, I mean, like, all the shit was real, and you still have the, oh, she ain't hot anymore. Like things like that.
Yeah, I mean, when I was streaming on Twitch, I didn't start with moderators, and there was a lot of stuff where I was like, and you're watching it and you're reading it live, which I think is like probably better if you're performing and you don't have to read the comments, because it is jarring and it's like it takes you out of it. It makes it hard. It's hard to move past it sometimes. Right. And then once I had really great mods, one of the biggest things I would go back in the end and I would go through deleted comments, or that they would tell me they're like, don't. Because some of the things that people say are just like downright horrifying.
That's why the only reason it took so long to even want to attempt to even bring this podcast into fruition was because I can't deal with that. I can't.
I'll be the mod.
It's thanks. I mean, it's expected. y'all are cruel sometimes.
But I think what was that? That was part of like the fear.com thing or like anything. There was another movie. It's not a horror movie. It was a thriller where the FBI are chasing a serial killer who's like killing people by the number of live stream views they have. It's with Colin Hanks.
What the?
Yeah, dude, it's great. It's a great movie. I'll put it on the screen.
Please do. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, literally, there's a serial killer going around and he live streams, and the more people that watch, the faster the person dies. And these people are writing crazy ass comments, and like some people are like, "It's not real. It's all for fun. It's all fake." But they're still tuning in, and they're killing people by their actions. I'll put it on the screen.
I love me a good live stream movie. Even if they're not great, I just love it.
Like, did we talk about this before? I feel like I talked about it recently. Cradle of Filth made a movie.
Yes, they did.
And it's called Cradle of Fear. And, oh my God, they have a segment. It's an anthology. And there's a segment where this guy is, like, obsessed with basically, like, the Hostel type thing where people getting tortured and watching them in a room, and you get to like choose how they die if you spend money, and like he ends up in the room at the end is like, you know, so it's an interesting little sub genre.
The darkness of people and the thing that you won't do, but you kind of, it's like that the id or whatever inside you that wants to see the mayhem.
I mean, any comment, like the worse a comment is, the more somebody, it's all just a personal thing. Like they just want to get they want to be the celebrity too. They want to get the reaction that the person in the video's getting.
Yeah, IRL, I have a friend who's like a pretty big film journalist, and she had this guy who was like just constantly like stalking her and trolling her. Finally, she was like, "Dude, leave me the fuck alone. I'm gonna call the cops, whatever." And he's like, "I just wanted to be part of the conversation." Like, he's like, "You guys all talk on Twitter and all these things, and like every time I'd comment to join the conversation, I'd get ignored." Obviously, that doesn't make what he did right, but
at least he admitted it. And if somebody did that to one of us, I'd be like, okay, you're right. It doesn't make it right. That's awful, but I at least respect you admitting it.
But a lot of people aren't healthy enough to realize why they're doing it.
Right.
You know?
It obviously causes people to go down dark places. It's really cruel what some people can do. And that's why, like, it's funny in the context of this movie, because it's like, oh my gosh, she's being possessed. Things are flying all over the place. And I just got a boner. And it's like, I don't know. It's...
Then they're watching it at a bar. They're watching it at work. They're watching it just for fun.
Yeah, the British kid, like the English kid with the parents who neglect him, who aren't paying attention.
He's the president's kid.
Or the president's kid. That's right. Oh my gosh, I thought he was British. I don't know why in my head.
But yeah, so you have that aspect of the live stream, which then I thought it was kind of weird when it's like the hokey pokey. I was like,
I wrote
that took me out of it so fast. I was like,
the note that I wrote was hottest hokey pokey I've ever seen.
I mean, I think it
so
got
gross.
heightened, but it was weird in the beginning. And I was like, damn, I mean, I've touched a Parcan before and I've never had 3rd-degree burns.
Yeah, no, that's not how those lights are hot as fuck. Like, you gotta wear gloves when you use them, but they're not gonna fry all your flesh off.
Right. It's not gonna make you look like you went through a microwave.
No.
And that was a very extended scene. I feel like that was so long, but that was also the memory, like the flashback scene, right?
Yeah.
Where and he's stepping on the glass and there's just this, it almost...
I wish they'd just done the glass and left out the burns. The burns threw it for me.
Jesus.
I think that was the point.
Jesus. I know. That's what I'm like. Is it a little on the...
On the nose?
Say, like on the nail.
When she's first possessed and she goes from like saying the lines to being like this and the steam comes off her, I was like, oh, that's pretty. Instead of other possession movies where it's like, oh, it burns. But for her, it's just steam. Ooh, subtle. I like it. Because exorcism movies are not normally subtle. That's not the vibe. But that one I thought was great. And then they went from that to her makeup to burning a dude alive. It was like, boop, boop, boop. I thought he was cool, and when he put his face on his niece's leg, and then it peeled off, and the noise that was with it.
Yes, and she was just like,
That, I was like, ooh, yes, that was so well done.
You know, and the director is on record saying, like, you know, obviously with the constraints they had, he did as much practical as he possibly could.
The choices that he made, because obviously not everything is going to be able to be done there's certain things that you have to have those visual effects for. It can't exist in reality in the same way that like an exorcism like needs the thing that we're expecting to see. But some of the gore and the grossness is done by practical, because that's why you're like, oh, that's gnarly.
Well, you know, and the devil at the end, that's all practical for the most part.
I mean, you could tell the difference between when they're using practical and not. But and I give it a pass. Like on that budget too, on that scale, it's like, you know, it is what it is. CGI is what it is. But when they did use practical, I thought they used it very well.
Mm-hmm. It almost felt like when the gremlins come out of their like little, they hatch. Like it's like when like he's like rising out of the dead effects pyrotechnic guy's body, and you just see like the head coming out of the old head.
That was really cool.
It was really well done.
I actually think that it was a direct nod, at least what I saw, it's a direct nod to werewolf transformations, because they focus on the joints, which that's something in the 80s. Werewolf transformations were like the height of practical effects, with the bladders, with the skin rips, and having a joint go from a human looking to being more of that goat-like, wolf-like arch. A hind quarter.
Well, you know,
that
like,
was there.
Everyone ever is going to homage, you know, Rick Baker's version of American Werewolf in London.
Right.
But he spent how many years perfecting that? Like, obviously, that's why it's the height of...
It's a template.
He is the pinnacle, but I did think it was interesting to have a demon transformation that was an homage to a werewolf transformation versus, I don't know, there's other ways to just like become a demon, but it was that the demon came out of this corpse in that way, and I loved the layered skin rips were gorgeous. Some of the other things that they did effects-wise, the cloth pull from the mouth.
Yes,
that was really well done.
That was great. So was the blood, like
the black,
out,
which
like,
I know he said,
the black,
the blackness, the black vomit, which we talked about not liking in Late Night with the Devil.
Let me tell you guys why you love it in this movie. The director and the actress that's one solid 15-minute take of her just putting shit in her mouth, and he's like, okay, they didn't cut, and they were just like, now put more in, and then drool some out, and then like take 5 deep breaths, okay, do it again, and like just went, and like they're like, she just kept looking worse and worse and worse.
Good
and
for
like
her,
the
man.
producers were on set, and they're like, should we tell him to cut? Because she was fine, he was fine,
Right.
like everybody
She
was
just giving
but
it
they
her
were
all.
and he said that he used almost every frame of that take that he did in like one way or another.
Good for her, man.
Yeah, so
Well, and it's a good relationship. They had an agreement. They were at a place. There were obviously people on set to make sure that it was done safely, but they worked together to get the shot. And I think that that's a consensual, really happy, we're going to make this. And it worked. It was great.
But I think that's why it's more effective. When she's sitting there, you know, could you imagine putting that nasty, all like it was like Hershey syrup and a bunch of shit?
I had to do that like once, just an amalgamation of shit. You know, 2 takes of it. I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah, but are you really a horror actress if you haven't vomited blood out of your mouth? Like, if you haven't spewed some sort of liquid from your mouth, are you? It's a scream queen thing.
Are you really?
You got it. It's a rite of passage in horror movie acting.
But the cloth thing though, that was after the hokey pokey.
That was. I mean,
that
it
sounds
moves
so weird saying.
And then I think one of the other things that I like that seem more like classic horror, even though it wasn't big, it's the I love the pull under the bathroom stall, that shot. So many horror movies have. It's the PO. You're looking right at the person, and they get
like wreck. You always think of wreck.
Yes,
like
the wreck.
I thought
pull.
about that, but then I thought, oh, he actually escaped.
That's what I felt with a lot of the choices.
I mean, that's what they say. If something doesn't land, it's like a bad ripoff. If it works, it's a great homage.
Yeah,
it's true. It's so true.
We talked about a little bit earlier, like about how the demons are like your trauma or your inner demons, and then for this one, it was literally he had a demon that only he could see that caused him to unalive himself, was because of this thing that no one else could see, but he saw it, and it was so real to him.
Which felt very like Hellraiser 2 to me. I don't know if you guys have seen that with like the bugs, and then he just like gives him the razor, and
you know that was a fun. I think that like, the deaths were fun, except for. Fucking Riley, man. Okay. Her character didn't make sense to me, I'm going to be honest.
She was fodder.
She was, exactly. She was there because at first you think she's going to be that stereotypical, I'm just here because I need a job or whatever.
It looks good on my college
and then
courses.
Convenient enough, she's like, oh, I studied ancient language
in prep school. When I saw that, I was like, and then she had there's an app for that. And I was like,
oh, I couldn't tell if that was supposed to be a joke or if that's like, no.
She literally pulled up an app. And then, wait, I'm sorry. She doesn't want to be here. She doesn't give a shit. All of a sudden, she's super fucking invested. And then the second later, fuck this, I'm out.
Oh, yeah. But it's...
Boop. I'm not saying anything against the actress. I'm just saying, like, I don't think that character was developed.
It was unnatural.
She was fodder. She was there to serve. She was there to mock him. And then she was just there to make fun of young people. Like, I don't know. I don't understand.
She was the voice of the millennial.
But was
Are
she?
we millennials? She was the voice. Wait, who
Gen
are we?
Z?
I don't know who we are.
No, but I didn't think that.
was?
I don't know. I just don't think every other character had a purpose. I don't think she had a point.
No, she was a kill count.
Right.
Like, that's it.
Well, there's so much. This movie likes to pack a lot of twists, I guess, or a lot of like.
The demon is making them reveal things, and it's
Yes,
like the demon
yes.
is using all of its stuff, being like, "I will kill this person if you don't reveal this. If you don't reveal your hypocrisy." So, which kind of what made me believe the whole like, all right, well, this happened because they were fucking around, and the demon's like, I'm really annoyed with all this, so I'm gonna put an end to it.
I'm going to expose you.
Yeah. And so you lied about your merch. You lied about you being a priest. You lied about your relationship with each other. Your whole relationship is a lie.
And then I think like what we said earlier was Max's first test was that he has to get naked or whatever. And they said, Drew's like, don't worry, we're going to cover you. But the demon's like, fuck that. And then he's exposed, like literally exposed. Yeah. You could be metaphorical with that.
No, it was. They wanted to expose him.
They exposed him, and it's the thing that's interesting about him is I feel like a lot of times in movies like this, it would be easy for him to be like, no, I'm real up until the very end. But isn't it the first time that he realizes he's real and like the demon wants him to say something that he's like, no, I'm a fraud? Because he says it a couple times.
He refuses to give in for a lot of it, and he refuses to do a lot of things because he literally says, I'm not going to tarnish my image based on your hunch. He says that to Drew at one point. I'm not ruining my fame because you might know why this is happening.
But then after the hokey pokey scene, is that when he is finally just like, you know what? This is fake.
It's
like,
with the prayer cloths, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, and then this was the favorite thing that I wrote down in my notes. In the prayer cloths, it gets real. Like shit gets real. He's admitting defeat. Not full defeat, but he's starting to kind of break down the walls at this point. And my favorite comment was, can they refund my prayer cloth? Can they refund my prayer cloth, please?
But, I mean, the interesting thing is Max did go to school to be a priest. Yes. Like, whether he finished or not, he put in some time. He really did put in the effort to become a priest, whether he finished or not. And, like, I think that he does have some power over the demon, which is funny that he keeps refuting it after, you know, he's been broken down because that's why he's naked. It takes away his power. And then he has to admit that, you know, he's getting his prayer cloths from China. And then when it comes down to, like, actually vanquishing the demon, he's just like, oh, I can't do it well.
Yeah. Well, and he's more willing to give up things that don't affect him, but he'd probably be willing to kill Lane. Whereas Drew is very, very focused on saving her no matter the cost, including not listening to her, that there is something bigger and he doesn't care. He is not willing to sacrifice her to save whatever big picture problem is. And Max is not willing to sacrifice his fame for another person or for his best friend's fiance.
Right.
Or his former lover.
Which is discovered.
Right.
Ooh.
Because the demon is not only exposing him by trying to take away his fame, take away his money, and then he goes after to try to take away his friend. Yeah. Because he's like, you've been lying to him the whole time, and I'm taking away everything from you. Yeah.
Was it before or after? Because there was that other revelation where he's like, oh, you know, they dated before you ever dated, and it was this whole thing, and then he kept video footage of them, you know, having sex.
Which I really kind of wish they cut to to Desiree
at the bar,
because being like, you keep all these sex tapes of people, and I was like,
cool. She's like, what?
Where she was like, and her friends looking at her like, but like maybe they filmed it and it didn't make the final cut, but I was like, that's like what a scene I kind of expect to see, be like, girl, there's a sex tape of you.
No, I don't.
Which we all saw earlier, but you didn't.
And I love that. The moment where she spits out the coin and it's just like, I've been stealing money from you, taking 30%, no, 60, no, 70%. Yeah. And he's so quick, like he doesn't even think twice about admitting that.
It's the fingers. And she spits out the fingers and then the coin.
Right.
But yeah, and then because there is a bigger picture, there's a reason that all this is happening. And Max just thinks it's all about him. Even in the end, he's like, this is just about me because I killed a nun.
And that's what brought him to that position, which...
But, you know, in the end, when they've gotten Lane back and they think it's all over, it's wrapped up, and then...
Press the button.
And yeah, and then those fucking glasses came back so he could read
he got
the
his
rest.
name.
Yeah.
Amen?
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't his name.
No. There's so many twists.
But
But
yeah,
the end twist, I loved it. I really loved the
it was
ending.
the best part of the movie.
I loved the little kid going in and killing the president.
Oh,
I was like,
yeah.
great. I loved the gore of killing someone on the tire, even though we didn't see it, but I can imagine his jaw being ripped off.
They didn't show all that final gore stuff.
Oh, but they did do the callback to burning someone's face,
Yes.
like on the frying pan, on the griddle. So all of those kills I thought were a ton of fun. I really loved them. And then even they extended it into the credits with the world is ending.
I mean, I liked all of it. I think something that drove me fucking nuts is like I didn't need the title cards of like I understand from watching it that these are all over the world that people are tuning in. And yeah, I thought I'm just like, are we watching a zombie movie or are we watching
Right.
But you know, so like basically I don't know if we need this for the audience, but so when he rises out of, you know, the pyrotechnic guy's body and it's the fucking he's like, I wasn't Amon, I was the motherfucking devil.
I'm the motherfucking devil.
He's like, but we got the name from the book. He's like, I wrote the book.
I love that. He's like,
Well, it's my book. Yeah, it's my book.
It was silly, but I thought that the end was really fun. I think it would be interesting to see where it went from this because it feels like I was like, okay, we finished this like really contained small movie. Are we gonna go to like 28 days later or something?
Yeah. And I liked watching this after we saw Late Night at the Devil because you see a lot of similar, you know, the electricity, like the demons coming through the electronics and transmission.
All three of the movies we've watched so far have all ended with like, you know, the ghost is in the machine. And
Ghost
so
in the machine.
The devil is using our creation to take us down.
Skynet is real. Skynet are demons.
oh my god.
And on
that note,
But we still have one more movie in this broadcast horror genre that we're going to cover. So if there's more movies that you can think of that are going to fit into this, because you might even be guessing the next one we're going to feature, that we're going to highlight. But please leave it in the comments because
I'm excited to learn more.
Give me more things to watch.
But that was The Cleansing Hour on Shudder. It's a good watch. I do recommend it. We all have different opinions. I think we're all varying on there, but I think at the end of the day, it was a fun watch.
So until next time, this has been Pillow Fright, and may God bless you and the devil miss you.
No, that's the end of it. That's what they said in the movie.
Pillow Fright. It's the theme song. Bye.